What if we could actually get a blueprint for global cooperation? A real workable way to tackle our biggest challenges together. Well, that's the massive idea we're going to unpack today. A new architecture for civilization called Phoenix. I mean, you've probably felt this, right? We're faced with these huge global issues, and it just seems like all our best efforts are disconnected, siloed. Sometimes it feels like they're even canceling each other out. It's like we're all in our own little boats, rowing as hard as we can, but we're not all pointed the same way. Well, this problem actually has a name: fragmentation. And it's not just about being a little disorganized. It's a deep systemic failure. It's the reason why you can have brilliant people in separate labs and governments and nonprofits all working on the same problem, but they just can't get the traction they need to solve it. So what's the antidote to fragmentation? The answer is coherence. And look, this isn't just some vague wish for better teamwork. It's a fundamental structural shift. We're talking about moving from duplicated efforts to synergistic action, from conflicting agendas to truly aligned missions. It's about getting everyone into the same boat, finally rowing together. This diagram here really shows us the journey from fragmentation to coherence. If you look way down at the bottom, you see that the process starts by dealing with the deep root causes of our disconnection, things like our subconscious beliefs and even our fears. And from there, it builds this upward flow all the way to what the designers call regenerative coherence at the very top. Okay, so how do we actually build that upward flow? Well, we're going to need a completely new kind of infrastructure, one designed specifically to support this massive shift. And that infrastructure is called Phoenix. Now, I want you to pay close attention to how Phoenix is defined here. It's not just another app or some software platform. It's a relational operating environment. And it's a really key distinction. Think of it less like a tool and more like a whole new kind of operating system for society itself, one that's built on human relationships and wise coordination. Okay, so an operating system for society. That's a pretty huge concept, right? How in the world do you actually use something like that? Well, to navigate this new environment, we need a practical tool that people can actually use. And that brings us to its core component, which I'll admit has a bit of a mouthful for a name: the Synchronized Logistical Transformation Guidance System. Yeah, that's a lot. So let's just use a much simpler analogy. Let's think of it as a GPS. But instead of helping you navigate city streets, it helps all of us navigate incredibly complex social and institutional change. It's a GPS for civilizational transformation. And just like the GPS in your car or on your phone, it's designed to answer the most fundamental questions for any person or group trying to make a difference. Where are we right now? Where are we trying to go? Who else is on the road with us? It's all about providing clarity and a clear direction in what can be a really chaotic world. It turns these huge abstract goals into concrete, actionable next steps. So how does this GPS for change actually work its magic? Well, it operates through 6 core functions, which you can see right here. We're going to walk through them one by one because each of these builds on the last to create this incredibly powerful engine for coordinated action. All right, first up, orientation. I mean, it's simple, right? You can't get where you're going if you don't know where you are. Orientation is literally that "you are here" marker on the map. It gives any project an honest, clear-eyed assessment of its starting position, its resources, and the whole landscape around it. Okay, second, once you know where you are, you need a route, and that's where pathway generation comes in. And this is so important. The system doesn't just hand you some generic one-size-fits-all plan. No way. It generates a path that is totally sensitive to your unique context, your resources, your goals, your specific challenges. It's a custom-tailored roadmap just for you. Third, and this is where things get really, really collaborative: relationship mapping. This function is like suddenly showing you all the other cars on the road that are heading to the same destination. All of a sudden, the entire ecosystem of related efforts becomes visible. You can see who to connect with, who you can learn from, and who might just become your most important ally on the journey. All right, function number 4 is all about making the journey way more efficient. It's called resource optimization. Think of this as the system looking for chances to carpool. It intelligently spots where one group has a resource they're not fully using that another group desperately needs. This cuts down on waste and unlocks these powerful synergies that were completely invisible before.
Number 5 is a really cool concept called developmental scaffolding.
You see, this isn't just about managing tasks and timelines. It's about building our collective capacity for change. The system provides temporary support, like the scaffolding on a building under construction, to make sure teams are ready, they're aligned, and they have the skills to not just start the journey, but to see it all the way through to the end. And the sixth and final function is what brings it all together and really scales up the impact: institutional alignment. This is where we go from those local roads to a global highway system. The architecture is designed to find successful local projects, these little islands of coherence, and weave them together into a larger global fabric of coordinated action. This is how you scale impact from a local project to truly systemic change. Now, I know what some of you might be thinking. A system this ambitious, it might sound a little bit like some centralized top-down control system, but it's actually designed to be the exact opposite. As this quote says, it's a public interest, governance-first, federated environment. The absolute core principle here is that it's human-governed and AI-supported. It's designed for empowerment and collaboration, not coercion. And that really brings us to the final, powerful question this whole system asks us to consider. It's a vision for moving beyond all that fragmentation, beyond the wasted effort, and toward a future of intelligent, effective collaboration. It asks us to just imagine, what could we actually build together if we finally had a map that helped us all move as one? That's the promise of Phoenix.